Good evening. Would you bow with me for a word of prayer before we start our meeting tonight? We are gathered here tonight in service to the city of Nacogdoches, and we are grateful to the many individuals who are employed by the city and those citizens who volunteer in a variety of roles. May our work tonight be blessed with insight, understanding, and wisdom. Help us in representing all members of our community in a spirit of cooperation and in deliberating matters impacting our city today and in the future. Amen.
Amen.
So I'd like to call tonight's meeting of November 5th, 2019 to order. And happy birthday, Councilman Anderson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. First, we have community recognition. So I'm going to come down front. And this is on. And I would like to ask Coach Damon Jackson to come forward, Coach Ray Pettigrew, and Coach Corey Bland. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing very well. Great. Thank you for coming. Okay, so we're missing one, and that's okay. Okay, not a problem. So, the AAU basketball team, East Texas Dream Team, being recognized for their successes this past basketball season. You've played tournaments in Houston, Dallas, Austin, and Nacogdoches, and the combined record of the three teams is 52-17. That's outstanding. Coach Jackson is the founder and co-owner of the team with Coach Pettigrew, has been coaching the youth of Nacogdoches for 16 years. He is the shipping coordinator for Texas Farm Products, vice president of the Nacogdoches High School Alumni Association Executive Board of Directors, serves on the Board of Directors for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Nacogdoches, and is a part of the Rotary Club. I also understand that you all wanted to make sure we thanked some of your sponsors, and that would include the City of Nacogdoches, TFP Nutrition, Morgan Oil, Batters Law Firm, Charles Poole Real Estate, E-Tech, Christy and Billy Huddleston Jr., and Charlotte and Sam Flynn. Yeah, you can't do that without some money and some backing, right? Makes a little bit of a difference. So, would you like to say a few words? Tell us a little bit about why you do what you do.
The reason I do what I do is just to keep the youth of Nacogdoches off the streets, just give them something positive to do in the summer. I think it's really important for me to mentor the youth and be able to be there for them and give them the guidance and leadership.
That's great. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so one of the things we have for you tonight is a brick that is symbolic of the brick streets of Nacogdoches, and I've got one for Coach Bland if you would do that. And we hope that you will have that somewhere prominent that you can see, and you will know that your city is very grateful for all the work that you do for our city youth.
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like any of the kids that are here or anyone else that you would like to come up and let's have a picture. And council members, if you would come down, please, and join. Let's see. And some of them, yeah. Some of you can either bend down or go behind. Hi, how are you? Good. We'll get everybody in. Take a knee. How about a stand? Oh, I don't want to cover your take a knee. You're all right? Can you get everyone? Okay. Has he got on his yellow shirt? Anybody else? Everybody good? Okay. Thank you, and congratulations. Y'all did great.
One of my foster kids.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to agenda item number 3, which is our open forum. The open forum is the public's opportunity to address council on any matter related to the city that is not on the agenda. Our rules and procedures for council meetings apply to the open forum. Disrupting a public meeting is a violation of state law, and no cursing is allowed. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, City Council cannot discuss, consider, or take action on matters not listed on the agenda. So we are, let's see, Linda Fields, would you please come forward? Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Good. I've been here before, you know, and I want to thank y'all for putting that light out there near the trail, the Lena Creek Trail, and by the bridge, because, you know, with so many people coming through there at nighttime and it was dark, and I live right there on the corner there, and I was a little skeptical. And what I'm up here for today is about a tree, and I think that tree belongs to the city. It's right there on my fence, and the roots is coming up, growing up out of it, and it's a huge, tall tree. And I was trying to find out if y'all could take that tree down, or if it was my tree, I'd have it taken down, because I didn't want it to fall on my house.
Okay.
I mean, it's huge. It's one of those old trees from way back when, you know. And so, but I think it's the city, because my grandmother, you know, she sold that part of her property to the city so they could put that trail there. And so I would like for y'all to take that huge tree down. It's right there from my house, if you would.
Well, we will have someone look into that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, well, thank
Okay.
you. It's good to see you again.
You too.
Okay. We are going to move agenda item number 7 up to the top, because one of the persons involved with that has to get out of town, has to go pretty soon. So if we could start with agenda item number 7, Chief?
Mayor and council members, Keith Kiplinger, your acting city planner. Tonight, we're here to discuss specific use permit number 19-04 regarding the property located at 3804 South Street. This specific use permit is for to permit the light manufacturing and assembly operation in a B2 general business district. Tonight, we'll have a public hearing where you'll hear from staff, then an opportunity for the applicant to speak to you. Then anyone who's opposed to the idea, and then we would ask that you consider an ordinance following the public hearing. The specific use permit would allow light manufacturing in a B2 general business district. The location is the former Elliott Electric Supply location on South Street. As you can see from the aerial map, the majority of that area is inside the city limits, and everything adjacent to it is located inside the city limits. And the zoning map indicates that B2 is to the north and south, and also to the east of this property. This particular tract of land is divided in its zoning district. The back section is zoned R4, which is residential. That's represented by the brown. The front portion, approximately 2/3, is pink, and that's B2 general business district. This specific use permit would only affect the B2 portion of that lot. As you can see from the photographs, the current site, and then also photographs of the businesses in the area. Horace Mast is here and can speak to it. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended 4-0 to approve the specific use permit, and staff also recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. So I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak against the ordinance? Okay, if not, is there anyone here that wants to speak for the approval of the ordinance? Good evening.
Thank you all for moving this up so I could catch my flight. So I really, really, really appreciate it. But yes, I am in final stages of negotiating the purchase of the Elliott building. It will be still used in the same manner for distribution of parts, warehousing, So same use as it is today. However, the building is quite old, so we will be remodeling it, and the use is slightly different. Instead of selling parts and fixtures out of the front section, we'll be performing some light assembly. If there's any questions about the specific parts that we'll be assembling, I brought some pictures for you if anyone would like to see, but really look forward for this opportunity to expand our business here in Nacogdoches, and we will also be bringing new jobs from Fort Worth. We'll be moving an operation that we merged with in Fort Worth to this building as long as we can procure it.
Okay.
So, any
Let's see if
questions?
anybody else wants to speak, and then we will close the public hearing and have discussion. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for the ordinance? Good evening.
Good evening, Larissa Philpott, the President and CEO of Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation. Just here to lend our support to Horace Mast. The Mast family and Mast Motorsports has been a big part of the Nacogdoches economy for the last several years, and it's very indicative of the kind of manufacturing and the type of new jobs that we're looking for here in Nacogdoches. So I'm just here to lend our support to him and encourage approval of this request.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, public hearing is now closed. Council, do you have any questions for whichever one you want to talk to first, either Chief Kiplinger or Mr. Mast? If not, okay, I do. You do.
I
Go ahead.
have,
Go ahead.
you go first.
No, you go right ahead.
I just have one little comment, suggestion for Mr. Mast. I hope you don't find this inappropriate. I know that the A&M School of Engineering is top-notch, but as Councilmember Garth Hins can attest, UT, University of Texas MBA, is really where it's at in terms of business. So to ensure success, I would just like to lightly suggest the University of Texas.
Okay.
Is this going to be assembly of parts that they're going to sell on site, or are they going to be shipping them out,
So it's my understanding that they will be assembled on site and they will be shipped out.
shipped out? Okay. But basically the same type parts that's been sold there.
So if you look at the use of the property as it currently sits, the front portion is a retail sales showroom, where there are retailer, customers come in, maybe electricians or a citizen like you that comes in and buys things. The back, or the vast majority of the building, is used for warehousing and shipping and those kind of things on a more commercial basis. What they're proposing to do is continue operating the back portion of the building as it has been, as a warehouse and a shipping and receiving facility. And the front portion that's currently retail, that's where that fine assembly and manufacturing will happen inside that area.
How many employees they bringing from Fort Worth?
A lot.
We hope to bring many more, but there'll be four. The day one we open up, there'll be 4 new people, and people from my current facility, there'll be 3 that'll move over there, so we'll have 7.
And how many we hired in Nacogdoches?
We'll be moving 4 new hires from Fort Worth to Nacogdoches, so 4 people will be moving.
And then 3
Permanently?
from here.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, I have a question that, about the specific use permit. So, can you refresh us, once that is done, if he vacates or sells the property in the future, then that specific use permit is no longer in play?
So the specific use permit runs with the property and it attaches. So basically what our land use ordinance allows is that we have certain things that are allowed by right in each of our districts. So in a B2 general business district, certain things are allowed by right. They don't require a specific use permit. Certain things that are a little more intensive in nature often require a specific use permit, or things that are a little unusual that don't fit a norm might require a specific use permit. Once the specific use permit is issued, it runs with the property. So as long as that use is not abandoned for a period of time, then the specific use permit is still good. So should Mast Motorsports decide they needed to add on and build a 40,000 square foot facility somewhere else, then this property could still be used for light manufacturing and assembly, as long as that use was not abandoned for an extended period of time.
And what are some businesses that are considered light manufacturing?
An example of light, I'm just kind of struggling to kind of give you an idea of what that, what else that might be in town, because I don't know of any other specific use permits for light manufacturing. Ms. Philpott may be able to help me.
I think I can easier give you a definition. We're looking for assembly of things and typically not making a new thing out of raw materials, if that kind of better answers your question. So putting pieces together that are made somewhere else and just assembled on site.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I am interested to hear what the parts are that you're gonna be assembling.
Well, we will continue manufacturing our parts at our facility on Northwest Stallings Drive. The main change we will make with this new building is that we will move those parts into inventory, and they will be assembled up front in the light assembly area. And so I brought some pictures worth, a million words. If you pass this out, you can see pictures of the parts as they are finished at my facility on the West Loop. Second picture shows all the parts that will go together to form the final assembled part. And number 3 is pictured of the final assembled part.
Are there any other questions while we're looking at the?
We're gonna be doing complete crate motors or no, nothing that exciting?
No, we will keep, we're not abandoning our current facility. We're just expanding part of the operation.
Yeah,
And they're small. These are pieces of equipment that are this big.
oh yeah.
That was the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are beautifully done heads, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, if no other questions or comments, thank you.
No
Mr.
problem.
Mast. Appreciate it. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we pass agenda item number 7 as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Go catch your plane. You're very welcome. Thank you. So we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull for comment or questions? I would like to ask Chief Seavey to provide just a little bit of information on agenda item B, which is amending an ordinance and involves taser grant, the replacement of tasers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is, we could maybe call this Mythbusters 101, about tasers. We have tasers. We've been using tasers for probably 16 or 17 years. The technology has advanced quite a bit, so we applied for a grant to replace our tasers with the newer models. So we're replacing, for the most part, what we have. We would like for officers to carry their equipment and maintain their own equipment and have their own equipment, because you have problems when you swap stuff out. So some of the tasers are gonna go to personal issue, but they are all, we're trying to get away from our older model tasers and get the new technology. Same company, but a better model. We use tasers about 4 to 6 times a year, roughly.
46 or
4
426?
4 to 6 times a year. And I can see where that could be confusing. And tasers save lives, they save injuries, and they are superior, what we would refer to as an intermediate, less lethal weapon. If we don't have tasers, then we either have to go hand to hand, somebody's getting hurt, you're gonna break a finger, break a wrist, you're gonna do something, something's gonna happen. So We don't like to go hand to hand. We can use impact weapons of various kinds, and we have a variety of them. Again, somebody's gonna get hurt. With a taser, most often, you use the taser, the person goes down. Contrary to popular belief, you don't lose control of your bodily functions or anything else. You just temporarily lose control of your big muscle groups, and you lose that ability most of the time to fight back, and you just fall to the ground, and then that's all there is to it. And then finally, tasers keep her from having to use deadly force. If we've used tasers on people who have had knives and other striking objects and things like that, it's an invaluable tool. This is a grant that came down from on high through DEDCOG and out to us, and accepting this grant will allow us to do that work.
Okay. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank
That
you.
was just what I was hoping to hear.
Do we have some questions about it?
Would you like to ask them?
Just a couple.
Okay.
I read that there were 22 tasers with this grant.
Right?
Are all of our police officers equipped with tasers currently?
Not right now, and we're gonna get close with this,
Okay.
very
Okay.
close.
So you're replacing some, and then,
We're gonna try to replace all of our old ones and then have some, additional ones to issue out, yes.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. That's it.
Anything else?
Anybody that wishes, you are welcome to come to one of our officers are trained annually on use of force, deployment, de-escalation, and the use of the taser. Anyone that would like to take a ride is welcome to come down.
Can I send my
We don't
4-year-old?
have to be test subjects.
Just a simple raise of the hand. No? That's close.
Thank you very much. Okay, so to approve the consent agenda, I need to recuse myself from the vote because of a conflict with the Boys and Girls Club, which is item E. And so, having said that, Chair will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with no adjustments.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is another public hearing. Consider an ordinance of the City of Nacogdoches granting a specific use permit for development and operation of a travel trailer and recreational vehicle park. Hello again.
Hello, Mayor and Council, Keith Kiplinger, your acting city planner. Once again, we have a public hearing and recommended approval of an ordinance related to a specific use permit, number 1903. The requesters, Mr. Keith and Vicky Sosha, would like to expand a recreational vehicle and travel trailer park at 4925 and 5001 Northwest Stallings Drive. This property is a fairly large, so it does have 2 addresses, so I wanted to be as specific as we could. Travel trailers and recreational vehicle parks are allowed with a specific use permit within a B2 general business district again. The current use of this land is as a recreational vehicle and travel trailer park and has been for many years. But their desire is to expand the park, add a clubhouse, and expand amenities at the location. They have just recently purchased this property, and so this would be a new owner and a pretty significant expansion and investment on the Northwest Loop. The location is just south of the DPS driver's license office, located on the Northwest Loop, kind of north of Kinfolks and the Morgan Oil Fuel Depot. That area is surrounded by city limits, but just at the very edge of the city limits. There are no residential areas adjacent to it, and as you look at the zoning map, you'll notice that it's all zoned B2 general business. The red hashed area is actually outside of the city limits. The current RV park, there's a couple of photographs of the current recreational vehicle park that's on site. The Socias did inform me tonight that they very recently closed on the property and have started cleaning up the recreational vehicle park that was there. A number of those trailers had been there for an extended period of time, and it was time to kind of clean it up. The other businesses in the area, as you can see, looking east, west, north, and south, there's some undeveloped land and also a portable buildings sales facility, which is sort of on the south end of this property. Planning and Zoning Commission took a good look at this. We had a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission of 4-0 to approve with conditions. After coming back and meeting with the city attorney, we adjusted those conditions to reflect what's already in the zoning ordinance and in some of our other city codes, so that we weren't duplicating existing laws and codes within the specific use permit. So what you'll see is a recommended list of conditions, and I will very briefly go through those. The premises kept clean and free of debris and available for inspection by the city at all times. All driveways, internal roads and parking areas will be an all-weather surface, which means that they'll be paved. Only passenger vehicles, recreational vehicles, and travel trailers are allowed overnight, and so no mobile homes, manufactured homes, or industrialized housing would be allowed there. Separation will need to comply with the fire code, so those things need to be a little further apart, and as recreational vehicles often have slide outs, and so we want to make sure that they stay 10 feet apart so that we don't burn 3 of them in a row. And no recreational vehicles or travel trailers will be permitted to remain more than 180 days based on our recommended conditions. And so the socios are here and can address any questions you have about their proposed development, and I'll be happy to do so as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So that is a public hearing, so is there anyone here that would like to speak against this development? Okay, anyone wanting to speak for? Okay, public hearing is now closed. Council, questions
I have one question.
for Kiplinger?
Chief, I was originally going to ask a question about short-term, long-term rentals, but you mentioned the 180 days, because it looked like some of those trailers has been there longer than the 180 days.
So it just so happens that in the current, it's a lawfully pre-existing recreational vehicle park. So it's lawfully operating, it's been there a long time. I don't think any of us has any idea how long it's been there. Some of those trailers have been there as long as I have been working here, I think. So we had several discussions with the socios with regard to these conditions, and trying to make sure that we found conditions that would protect the community and the city in the future, but also conditions that would allow them to put a nice facility there. And so one of those conditions was taking a look at the length of time people could stay. And the 180 days reflects the ability for snowbirds to come in and locate here from somewhere up north. And that's apparently a fairly common length of time for those people to come in, spend the winter in Texas, and then go back home. And so the Planning Commission did recommend that we require them to maintain a log so that we had the ability to inspect that log of when vehicles come and go. And the socios were amenable to that as well, and that's in the conditions that are listed in the ordinance.
Because, now if you visit this location, like the distance between trailers is not the 10 feet, or how many feet you said it was?
Well, they'll stay 10 feet apart, generally speaking, yes.
And some of them doesn't have the asphalt parkway.
Right.
They park in the grass.
Right.
Next to it. And there was some of them that, the tires was flat. They've been sitting there for a while.
And awnings were built onto them, and window unit air conditioners were hanging out the back of them, and yes, absolutely. So this expansion will require all new utilities, so they'll be putting in new water and sewer lines to every site, new electrical, new cable TV and internet to each of the recreational vehicle spots. They'll also be adding a clubhouse with shower facilities and a kind of a meeting room and restrooms, so a common area to do those things. And then hopefully down the road, as this is successful, they'll add additional amenities as well. I would note that they will be required by city ordinance, by the landscape ordinance that the council has approved, to plant 2 large growth trees every 100 feet along the property line, or 3 short mature height trees along the property line within the front 35 feet. The socios have indicated that they intend to do significantly more landscaping than that, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to address to council exactly what they plan to do.
Okay. Any more questions for Chief?
One question for the chief, and then I would be interested to hear about the landscaping. But so the proposed expansion, because I understand there's a rehabilitation of the current property, but the special use permit is for expanding it into land that's not developed currently. Am I understanding that correctly?
So to add, to do anything more than repairs, they need a
Okay.
specific use permit in order to make that happen. So there is a portion of the lot that is currently being used for a recreational vehicle park, but it is not the entire breadth and depth of the park.
Okay.
Or of that lot.
Okay.
And so this will allow them to use the entirety of the lot for that purpose, and then also allow them to make the modifications. So we would not permit them to put in a clubhouse for an RV park without getting a specific use permit.
Yes.
Does that answer your
answers it.
question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the Socias, would one or both of you like to come up and tell us about your? Okay. Well, good evening and welcome.
I'm Vicki Burns Socia from Nacogdoches myself. This park, I did bring, this is just a preliminary that Dale Allred just kind of put together for us of kind of what it's going to look like. With the park, Keith and I have been RVers, and this is something that kind of have had in our future for retirement to possibly do. He has himself personally installed 5 different RV parks for other people out in the county areas. So this will be our first city work with an RV park. But we have already begun the cleanup at the current park, and if you went by there a month ago and went by there today, you would see the difference of the cleanup that's been taking place. It is going to take time. This isn't something that can happen overnight. The plan is that we would like to come in and put the new section in the vacant land and start immediate. My first priority is the showers and restrooms, is to get them up to code and up to good facility use. That would be one of the first things that we would like to start on, and then from there add a new office, and then the pool, in which the office is going to be combination recreational area as well, with very large porches. But anyway, so if anybody wanted to just take a glance at this, I could pass it around if you wanted to. So we are intending on doing the paved parking spots with the and to accommodate to where they can put one vehicle on. We will have overflow parking areas that they will be able to park additional vehicles away from the site up front, close to the office area and such. So, and we do have guidelines. I just said that. Wish I had brought those, because I do already have those written out and have given them to the existing. We've had already moved the majority of the non-mobile RVs, have had them to leave the grounds. And so that is an ongoing process right now. There's really only about 3 more, I think, that we have to take care of. And we're looking at a limit of the age of the trailer to not be over 15 years old. And we did put in there at owner's discretion. I mean, you can have a nice 4 travel that can be 20 years old and still look like it's just 10 years old. So there would be some minor exceptions there, occasionally that would be, I think acceptable to the council and to the property itself. But anyway, that's, any questions?
So you had one about.
Yeah, could you tell me more? I would love to hear more about your landscaping plan, since it's
Okay.
it's sort of like the front door to the city, really, and it's right on the I-69 corridor. And so, first, I appreciate your work already in making it look nicer and giving a better impression of the city. But I would love to hear what plans you guys have in terms of landscaping.
Well, we don't have any definitive plans, but we're working on those. But my main thing is I would like to line the front of them, the front of the park, with crepe myrtles. And of course, that's going to be more than 2 every 100 feet, I think is the guideline. And then there's trees that have already been planted inside the park that, in that area too. And then there will be, around the main office, there will be some bushes that will be be coming to the front of a building. But the name of the park is no longer going to be Forest Country. It's going to be Western Pines RV Ranch. And so we're going to do a country style for the office and the looks of the office front and just make it real attractive. We're going to have 2 drives, one in and one out, versus I think there's 5 or 6 right there right now. So, and the future goal is we would love to gate it, that would be something that would be in the future. So we want to make it snowbird friendly. We want them to see that and stop in Nacogdoches for the 6 months versus drive on through, because there's not one here for them to stop at. And so that's one reason we chose that location. And it's like, being in the city limits definitely, makes it more, well, it was a harder decision because there's not as many restrictions on the outside. So, but anyway.
Was,
Yes, sir.
The Civic Center part of your position as placing it there because you expect business from the Civic Center during the rodeo season, et cetera?
Well, it was already there, so it's an existing park, and, you can look at aerials of different years that park has been full in the past. I've got an aerial on my phone right now that I have no idea when it was taken, but you can date it because I know what's there now and what wasn't there, in that particular picture. But, so people have stopped there, and there's repeats every year that come there. And we have one that he and his wife come here because she does some kind of testing at the school, and they stay at our park. And they have stayed, and I got to visit with them, and they've stayed at other parks, and they have come back to this one. Even in the condition that it was in, they still preferred this park because I guess maybe the openness of it or whatever. But anyway, did that answer your question?
Yes, and what
So
was
the rodeo.
What was the name of it going to be?
It was going to be it's going to be Western Pines RV Ranch.
RV Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This fills a great need for us. I appreciate you guys taking this on. As you know, we've become in the last 20 years the RV capital of the universe, pretty much, on the loop, which is fantastic. We have people coming in from all over, not just Texas, but from other states to buy,
Yes.
which is fantastic. And then my grandparents are snowbirds, and they've struggled to find places to park that's relatively close in. So that's fantastic. So I really do appreciate you.
Yeah, 6.2 miles from SFA.
That's a good selling point.
So we get parents on Parents Weekend, that stay there that every year. So,
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve agenda item number 6 as is written.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve agenda item 6 as written. If no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Pardon me. Agenda item number 8, consider a contract for services with Hillco Partners. Mr. Jeffers?
Madam Mayor and City Council, it is not unusual for the city to have a consultant to assist us with federal as well as state issues. We had a consultant in Washington, D.C. for many years when earmarks were available, and that particular relationship actually generated millions of dollars for the city. I don't mean to put that type of pressure on Hillco, but what the heck? If we can do it with the feds, then I'm sure that Hillco can do it for the city. Behind me, you'll see a young man who's shaking his head no. He is Kelly Barnes, and he is the the principal that we'll be dealing with Hilco. Kelly was Travis Clardy's chief of staff. We've kind of overlooked that and went ahead and are recommending a relationship with him. You can see the services that are included. It's kind of a smorgasbord. We're talking about spending $60,000 annually. Transportation will be at the top of the list as we continue to work on the I-69 corridor, and then water and state regulatory agencies. And a lot of this will be as issues arise. We looked at 4 firms, including the Longbow Partners out of Austin, Texas Legislative Associates out of Dallas, Focused Advocacy out of Austin, and concluded Hilco, which is actually a premier lobbyist for cities in the state, as the best fit for us. The agreement, if the council concludes that they don't feel like it's productive, can be canceled with a very short notice. And I'm confident simply because we get beat up by our state legislature on a regular basis. It seems to be getting worse. It's not getting better. We don't need help with Senator Nichols and Representative Clardy. We need help with everyone else in the state. And part of that includes state agencies such as TCEQ. Because of the experience of Hilco, they have individuals who have dealt with these state agencies and or the legislature. And so Kelly may not know everyone that is a member of the legislature, but I suspect that he does. There are other members of his firm who have intimate relationships with other members of the legislature from throughout the state that they can help to influence for Nacogdoches to achieve any particular goals. Madam Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I'll step aside for public comment. And Mr. Barnes is here to answer questions that the council might have, but did not prepare any specific remarks.
Thank you. Is there anyone here this evening that has a comment? No? Hearing none? Okay. Council, questions for Mr. Jeffers?
Well, I have one.
You go right ahead.
You mentioned that the contract could be canceled at any time.
Yes, sir.
How would that be, what would you be the determined factor in that?
Well, city council, it's their determination for any reason or no reason. So if you're not satisfied with the progress or what we have achieved, then you can pull the plug. There aren't any mitigating circumstances that have to be met in order for the council to cancel the contract.
See, that was basically my question is, how would we know if that's $60,000 is worth it, say 6 months down the line?
In all probability, you're going to be hearing from a city manager, but not this one, who says
thank
that
goodness.
it's not worth it. But what I intend to do is to provide council regular reports about what Hilco is working on. If the city council has items that you want Hilco to address, then all you got to do is let me know, or you can ask to have it placed on the agenda. I intend to provide quarterly reports to the city council about Hilco's activity. I think it's important that we be transparent and let the citizens of Nacogdoches through their city council how those monies are being expended.
Federal and state?
Just state. I'm sure they could help us some with federal issues, but that's not their particular area of expertise, and that's not why we're retaining them. Our largest issue right now is with the state. I think everybody's well aware of the drama with the Speaker of the House and that his rather brazen remarks about he's not very fond of cities or counties, and that attitude is very disappointing to hear him say that on a recording, but we see that attitude in other areas of state representatives. As far as our local reps, they say that you are the ladies and the gentlemen. Well, one of you's not a gentleman. But you're the individuals who have to deal with the citizens face to face on a regular basis, and you should be making decisions for what's important, bless you, for the citizens of Nacogdoches and not Austin. And that's one particular right of home rule cities that I think it's critical that we preserve, or you'll begin to see a downward spiral about cities' abilities to promote economic development. We lost the unilateral annexation powers this last session. That's really going to hurt the large metropolitan cities. It's going to harm us, but the great harm is going to be to those metropolitan cities, and I would say within 10 years that you're going to see the legislature readdress that issue and say, hey, in order for cities to remain financially healthy and to promote economic development, that they've got to have unilateral annexation authority, which we've had for, I don't know, 50 plus years.
If you'd asked me 10 or 12 years ago, I would have said no. But after being part of the organization, lobbyists, they bring a lot to the table. And Deadcock, Brazos Transit, and other cities, I know they bring a lot to the table.
Exactly. For those of you who haven't met Kelly, I'm sure that you'll be interacting with him in the future at different events, but you're going to find that he has an extraordinary skill set, and I'm confident that he's going to do good things for us. It is a uphill battle, though. I did ask Representative Clardy if us having a lobbyist, not necessarily Mr. Barnes, would be of help without hesitation. He said absolutely, that he has difficulty in covering all the bases that he needs to cover with his fellow members of the House. It's a daunting task with a number of issues that the state has to address on an annual basis within a very short time frame. Well, we all know that state legislature only meets once every 2 years. That's enough from many people's perspective, but you've got to be ready for the battle, and it is a battle.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
He hit
Okay. You?
Yes. In the absence of city council asking for specific things or policies or legislative pushes, where would Hillco get their marching orders from? From the city manager?
From the city manager, and then the council will be kept informed. I thought about bringing it to the council on all matters, but quite frankly, it's a very fluid business. The council has to be kept informed. But the transportation issue is an easy one. We are in the Universal Transportation Plan for the US 259 interchange to be constructed in a few years, but it's not funded. So we have two goes. Number one is we want it to be funded. And number two, if we can move it up, then we want it moved up. And then the big task is to secure funding for 69 to actually be constructed, not only inside the city, but all of Nacogdoches County. I think that I mentioned before that when you look at how the state builds highways, they build based on need. And when you look at the number of accidents on 59 inside the city limits, they don't particularly grab your attention. The interchange, 259, we turn trucks over on a regular basis. And so that's what got us in the UTP. But now we just have got to get it funded. Part of the funding will come from safety money, which is a lot easier to secure if you meet the minimum criteria, but it won't pay for all of it. So we're going to need another additional appropriation for that particular project to actually be constructed. But even though we don't know what it would cost to build the interstate inside the city limits, now's the time to start working on it and to get that message apart to people who understand connectivity, that you've got to pay attention to us now. I think, well, I'm preaching to the choir, 69 is a relief corridor for I-35. And some people will go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, it does, because you have traffic that comes out of the ports, including the Port of Houston, and then they will go east to get on 35 to go north. We'd like for that traffic to come straight north. I say like for the traffic, a lot of that traffic's going to come whether you want it or not. And so those highway improvements have to be made, or we're going to begin to see some significant traffic issues on US 59. It's not a tsunami as what was originally was projected. It's going to occur gradually, but I think if anybody goes and sits on the West Loop, then you'll note that the traffic is steadily increasing every day. I think everyone is aware that Chevron is building a truck stop in the Central Heights area. They wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't the increase in traffic. And the Denny's truck stop wouldn't be here if there wasn't the increase in traffic. And so Ms. Philpott has promised that great things are going to happen because of the efforts of NEDCO with I-69, and I'm sure that the City Council will make sure that her vision comes true. You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay. I have a question that I'm sure you can answer, but Mr. Barnes may want to. How does a company with lobbyists who are representing different cities throughout the state, when you've got some cities, say a more urban area, talking about money for transportation versus rural money for transportation, or water in West Texas versus water in East Texas? How does that work?
They have conflict of interest issues that they have to address, but I know that Mr. Barnes is dying to talk to the council, so I punt. Mr. Barnes, please.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
Council, nice to see you and some familiar faces. And I have to give a quick shout out. I got to work with Jim the past 6 years, and so sad to see him leaving. I'm sure you guys are as well. So just want to get that in beforehand. On conflict checks, what we do is we represent a number of cities in the state, and so we get our legislative agenda from the city of Nacogdoches, what comes down to your transportation priorities, and we share those across the board with other cities of what projects we're working on. And if Nacogdoches sees these other projects over here that conflict with anything on your agenda that you don't want us working on, then we have to conflict ourselves out of working on that specific issue. So we allow you to see the other projects we're working on and vice versa. But in terms of actually working the agenda, we have a point person at Hilco on each account, and that person works individually. There's not a competition or hierarchy or someone's prioritized higher than another one. So that's mainly how we work.
What is your relationship with the Texas Municipal League?
We work with them really closely. You know, the two big bills this past session, obviously SB 2 is the property tax bill, SB 29 as well, taxpayer funded lobbying, and then just the general feel of the legislature this session, kind of being anti-county, anti-city. We attend all TML legislative meetings on behalf of our city, so we're at their legislative, updates. We're at the Capitol daily. We're testifying before committees along with TML. So it's a coordinated attack. You know, you're not just getting Hillco to represent you. You obviously pay dues to TML, but you get a lot of different assets. But we work with them.
Okay. Do you want to have a?
Yes, so, just like we can conflict you out of something that you're working on with another city can conflict you out of something that we want, right?
That can happen. It hasn't happened, but yes.
Okay, and so then that would just be like okay, guys, sorry, I know that this was important for you guys, but it's not happening.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, it's never happened, but yes, we have those things in place so
Okay.
to protect everyone.
Thank you
Yes,
very
ma'am.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for coming tonight. So, Chair will entertain a motion, and we can have further discussion if we need to.
I make a motion to approve the contract for services with Hillco Partners.
I second that.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve the contract. If no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. We are going to table agenda item number 9. Are we having executive session this evening?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so our meeting for November 5th, 2019 is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.